All right. Thank you, everybody, for making your way in. Obviously, a pretty interesting day on a number of different reasons for the Los Angeles Angels. But before we get to our conversation, just want to introduce myself. My name is James Williams. I'm an assistant sports editor for the Orange County Register and the Southern California News Group. I'm very excited to be doing this Twitter Spaces today. A big shout out to the social team for the Southern California News Group for putting this together. And my special guest today for this Twitter Spaces is none other than, OCR Angels beat writer, the man who knows the ins and outs of the Angels, Angel Stadium, and everything in between. It would be Jeff Fletcher. Jeff, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, James?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's I've covered some UCLA football. I still am, and I kind of know how things can go on a beat. One day it's nice and quiet, and you're just going through the paces, and then yeah, the next day the team's up nearly up for sale. What and it was kind of interesting phrasing, but maybe you can even clarify a little bit more on that. The way we were kind of presenting that news as it was first coming out is Arte Moreno is looking to potentially sell the team. Is does that mean he's just kind of exploring options, or is this kind of at the end of the day he's selling the team, he's looking for a way out?
Well, I think that, at the moment he has sort of left himself some wiggle room with that language to change his
Yeah.
mind, or if he doesn't get an offer that he likes. But I'm sure that he wouldn't have gotten to this point of putting it out there publicly if he wasn't pretty sure that he wanted to sell the team. So I think this is just a way to kind of let the world know and let all those billionaires out there who feel like they want to own a sports team to know that give Artie a call if you're interested. So I think it's probably going to take a few months for him to get all sorted out, but I believe at the end of the day, the Angels are going to be sold.
And you would probably, if you don't, that's okay. But do you remember how much he bought the team for, and what it may be going for in today's sports landscape?
Yeah, he paid $184 million back in 2002, 2003, and it is now worth currently about 2.2 billion according to Forbes. But that is just
Hmm.
the value based on comparable other teams. So whenever you're selling anything, it's like selling a house. It's supply and demand. So if you get a
Right.
couple people that are really interested in getting to a bidding war, then it could go up to like 3 billion or something like that. So I was thinking of buying the team for 2 billion, but I can't handle 3 billion. So I'm probably just gonna have to step away.
I think I think I could do my part and add a billion.
All right.
If you want to offer, or you could be majority owner. That's fine. But in all seriousness, what did this kind of come as a surprise to you? I know we talked at the All-Star game a little bit about, some of the guys on the roster, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and what their futures would look like with the team. But did Artie Moreno being maybe the first domino to kind of make its way out of this organization kind of catch you by surprise a
Yeah,
little?
yeah, it definitely caught me totally by surprise. I mean, Artie's owned the team for 20 years now, and the last,
Yeah.
8 or 9 have not been very successful. He's had a lot of other off-field things going on, lawsuits and that kind of thing. But still, it seems to be a very profitable business for him. And, by all intents, he still enjoyed being a baseball owner. So, I didn't think that anybody expected that he would be selling it anytime soon. He's 76 years old, which is kind of old, but still, you got plenty of years left, and so I definitely was surprised that it was happening right now.
And it seems like it was so long ago, but I guess it was at the start of this year that they had already changed. They switched managers, right? They got rid of Joe Madden, and they had a lot of different shuffling in that regard. But what was the players' reaction to this next big move, or next next big kind of chapter or in direction for this organization? What was if you look above it, for those who are listening to this space and looking on Twitter, you can see the big windows up on top of this space that have some of the headlines and articles for the OC Register that Jeff has written. And one of those is Mike Trout eager to have conversations with next Angels owner. Um, what was Mike Trout's reaction, and who were some other guys that maybe were able to provide some reaction for you guys yesterday?
Well, Mike Trout was pretty surprised. He said he found out about it the same as we did, when the release came out. And he said it's really too early for him to know what to think about
Mm-hmm.
it, because obviously it depends who the next owner is going to be. Is it going to be somebody who comes in and wants to spend even more money and commit to, more funding of the minor leagues and all kinds of different things, or is it somebody that wants to come in and spend less money and maybe trade Trout, or not re-sign Shohei Ohtani? And I mean, we just don't know which way they're going to go, so he doesn't really know how to react. But he definitely did say that he's going to want to talk to whoever the new owner is to just kind of get an idea of what that person or group wants to do with the team. Obviously, he's signed through 2030 for another $300 million or something like that. So
Right.
uh, he's going to have a big say. It's going to be pretty important, what he thinks and what they do with him. So obviously, he's going to be a significant figure when the new owners come in. And as for other players, really there was nobody else that really had any reaction. Most of these guys are just looking at the very short term,
Right.
trying to just get through the end of this season and figure out what's going to happen with their careers. They're probably not as interested in, the long term, health of the franchise. Obviously, the one exception to that is Shohei Ohtani. We would have loved to
Yep.
talk to him. We asked to talk to him because, obviously Ohtani's got 1 year left under control to the Angels. He's going to make, 25, $30 million or something like that next year, depending on his arbitration salary. And then he's going to be a free agent. So, if the Angels are going to re-sign him, it's going to be for a ton of money, and that's going to really affect a lot of the trajectory of the franchise. And that is something that, the conversations could have started, right when the season ended about that. But now I think that's going to be all on hold because, that decision is best left to the next owner. So, we would have liked to get Otani's opinion just on the fact that now his future is sort of on hold until we know, but he did not want to comment on it. So, uh, we'll just have to wait till later to find out what he thinks.
Does a an announcement like that? I would like to think, especially for Trout, right? Because again, I think from the conversations me and you have had, I just always wondered. I'm like, what is Mike Trout doing? What is he waiting for? Like, obviously the goal you would think for most players is to win a championship. He's been there so long, and it's like it just doesn't ever seem like it's going to come together. Does this conversation for Trout? I mean, it is something where he can maybe demand a trade, but he needs to kind of get the temperature of what this new owner is about. Do you think there is a do you does it catch you by surprise that he found out like the rest of us maybe?
A little bit, you would think that somebody of that stature that they would give him like a little heads up, to say, hey, look, I'm,
Right.
I'm thinking of selling the team. Just want to let you know before you find out about it like everybody else. I would not have been surprised if that happened. So I was a little surprised that he didn't know about it. So it was interesting.
And just from past conversations or interactions with Arte Moreno, can you just tell me what is he like as an owner? What does he what is your sense of involvement? Is he very hands on? We see him there when Mike Trout signs an extension, et cetera, et cetera. But what is he like as an owner? Maybe what are some things that we don't see outside of the public press conferences or media conferences? What do you know, or what can you say about Arte Moreno as an owner and as a person around that
Well,
organization?
he's definitely very involved as an owner. Some people would say too much, and that he gets involved in things that maybe he should leave the baseball people to. And I would say there's, a couple examples of that. I mean, there was the trade. The Angels were involved in the three-way trade, the one where Mookie Betts came to the Dodgers, and the Angels were going to get Jock Peterson and Ross Stripling out of that from the Dodgers. But there were some holdups with the deal and some medicals, and Artie actually pulled the Angels out of it. He didn't say exactly why, but the thinking was that he just got tired of waiting. So that was kind of a thing that you would think an owner level person should not get involved with, but he did. But beyond that, it's he's obviously involved in the big stuff. When they give somebody $200 million contract, obviously Arte is going to have a say in that. And I know that he's definitely a big baseball fan. That he pays a lot of attention. When the Angels signed Anthony Rendon a couple of years ago, Billy Epler told the story about how like Arte would text him or call him all the time, just out of the blue, and say like, "Hey, are you watching this, you know, Braves Mets game right now?" And he would just be just watching baseball and not just sitting there looking at the bottom line and thinking out of it as a business. So that can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your perspective. But he's definitely very involved and definitely interested in baseball and not just viewing it as a business.
And there's already I'm just trying to like think of all the different chapters of this season for the Angels. There was the whole thing with with the stadium stuff, and for some time now the talk of them going to Long Beach or exploring Long Beach as an option. Do you think a lot of that all kind of added up to what, you know, Arte Moreno just pulling out of everything and just saying, I'm just ready to move on from all of this
Well,
just because of everything that was going
I
on
mean,
with the city
yeah,
and everything?
the official story is that that was not related. That this was a decision that was he'd been thinking about previously, and it's just kind of the number of years he's been around and his age and all that kind of thing. But I have a
Hmm.
hard time believing that that stadium deal did not have an impact on this, because if he had gotten that deal, that would be this huge opening to make lots more money and to really expand the investment into development around the stadium, housing and restaurants and commercial stuff, and just all kinds of, it just opens up a huge number of doors of different things. And then when that thing disappeared, then I can imagine that it certainly would have caused him to step back and go, all right, well, maybe this is the time to get out.
And in your, I mean, I'm, I guess I'm asking you to predict here a little bit, but just based on maybe what you've seen or been able to kind of follow along with any other major league sales, what do you think the timetable is for a move like this and to get a new owner in place? Obviously that would depend on bidding and different other things. Do you have an idea of how long something like this can take?
Yeah, I mean, it can go anywhere from like 4 months to 2 years. I think the Angels would love to get it all buttoned up in like 4 to 6 months, because I think the reason they're announcing this now is to kind of give themselves a head start and hopefully have a new owner be in place by next season. So, obviously there's a lot of things that have to be decided with the direction of the franchise, including Otani. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
sooner the better that somebody can start doing that. Um, Whether they're able to do that, I don't know. There's a lot of complicated things that have to happen with these type of negotiations. So we'll see. Um, so I guess the best case scenario is that this is all over in like December, January, and the worst case is that we're still talking about this a year from now. So we'll see.
Gotcha. And real quick, for those of you who are listening to the Twitter Spaces, first of all, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it, and I'm sure Jeff does as well. If you guys have a question you guys would like me to ask, send me a direct message. We're not really going to take any audio requests, but if you have any messages or any questions for Jeff, send me a direct message and let me know, and I'll see if I can read some of those if there's any good ones that stand out. But Jeff, my next question, it kind of falls in line with the next one, and you kind of touched on it there a little bit with Shohei Ohtani, and the time he has left on his contract. Do you think is there any reason why they would try to take care of that? Obviously, maybe that is up for the next owner to do, but knowing that you have a long-term contract for Ohtani and obviously you have Trout there, is there moves or something that the Angels will be looking to maybe make here to try and boost that value and that number of the organization ahead of the sale?
Yeah, I mean, there is an argument to be made that it actually increases the value of the franchise if you have Otani locked up before the team is
Right.
sold. Um, I don't know that it really does that enough to warrant putting that type of commitment on to the next guy. So I think that it could go either way. It could, maybe the next owner would not want to have Ohtani signed for $500 million, or maybe he would. So you just don't know. And I think the safest way is just to leave it to the next owner to decide. So I think that's probably what they would do. But there is certainly one line of thinking that maybe it makes it better to have him around, or even to have him traded. So that strengthens the long term of the franchise in terms of young players. And maybe if the next owner comes in and says, I don't mind that we're not going to be very good in 23, I want to be better, after that. And so it helps to have 5 really good minor league players that we got for Shohei Ohtani. So I don't think that's going to happen either. These are just all hypotheticals. I think most likely what's going to happen is nothing is going to happen with Ohtani until there's a new owner to decide what he or she wants to do.
And just in terms of the fan base, what pretty much anytime you kind of tweet anything, good or bad, about the team, not good or bad, but good news or bad news about the team, there's always a lot of reaction on your Twitter feed from fans. What is the sense of the fan base been? Just in terms of those who are on Twitter, I guess. But what has that sense been like? And just kind of with what we've seen over the last couple of years, what has it been? 7 consecutive losing seasons, I believe, for the Angels. Are they excited for a change, or what is just the fan base's reaction at this
Yeah,
point?
the fans definitely are excited for a change. I think they might be a little too excited just because you don't know what you're going to get. And, it's one of these, they say the grass is always greener, or the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. So I think that people kind of should be cautious and wait and see who the new owner is going to be and what the plans are of the new owner before you get too excited. But I think that people have just been so frustrated with the way the Angels have gone over the last 7 or 8 years. And, rightly or wrongly, a lot of that blame goes to Arte Moreno. I don't think he deserves all of it, but certainly he deserves some of it. And I think that people just want something different, and they feel like, you know, anything different is better than kind of the status quo that they've had. So I think that people are excited just to have a change.
Gotcha. And we have a couple questions are starting to come in here, so we'll get to some of those. But before I start asking Jeff those questions, I just want to make sure you guys are going ahead and checking out some of those windows we have above here on the slider there on the Twitter Spaces with some of Jeff's latest work and some of our coverage just in general for the Los Angeles Angels. A lot of great stuff over there. Jeff's been covering the team for quite some time now and does a lot of great work. And yeah, we have a great sports team, and we have everything you need involving SoCal sports and just in the area, both at local, college, and professional level. So make sure you guys are going over to ocregister.com and checking us out. And if you like the content that you see, make sure you guys are going over and subscribing as well. We would appreciate it very, very much. With that being said, we'll get into some questions here. The first one comes from Tony F., who asked if Artie, kind of potentially being on his way out here and selling the team. Do you think there are any other moves or big potential moves that will be made? Maybe not on the roster side, but just in terms of, in the office and within the organization. Is there any other big shakeup? I mean, we saw the manager. We've seen the GM move over a couple years within the last year or so, I believe. But what other changes do you think Artie can make on his way out, if any?
Yeah, I don't really think that he is going to do that. I think that he wants to let the next owner decide, the big important moves on the direction of the club. Obviously, stuff like
Mm,
who's going to be the hitting coach is more like a Perry Manassian question, and I'm sure he's going to make all those decisions, basically at his level and below. Pretty much all the people in uniform, he's going to make all those
right.
decisions, and I don't think he really needs to consult with ownership on any of that kind of stuff. So that stuff is probably going to still happen the same as it would otherwise. But like Perry's job in himself, for example, I think is probably safe now, just because I don't think that they're
Yeah.
going to want to mess with that while they're going through all this, and they probably are going to want to let the next owner have a say in who the general manager is. So I think Perry's probably going to be able to do whatever he feels like he needs to do regarding the baseball operations. And then when a new owner takes over, then it'll be, everything will be on the table from the
Mhm.
president of the team all the way down. So we'll just have to see what happens then.
And you mentioned Perry there, and I think he might have even just been available to talk, prior to the announcement and stuff. I believe he was talking about the minor league system or something recently. But has he been made available, or is there any word on him being available, or does he have any sort of weekly or monthly media availability? Is there
Um,
something where you guys will be able to pick his brain on some of the
he's actually
this latest?
he's actually here in Tampa, and we did talk to him a couple days ago in where were we last? Where did this trip
Was
start?
that
Detroit, that's right. And we talked to him there, and we asked to talk to him yesterday regarding the Artie news, and he declined. I think that like most people, there's the same reason Shohei declined. I think they feel like there's really not much they can say until they know what's going to happen. Who the owner is going to be and what the direction is going to be. So right now, all they can kind of do is wait and see. Um, so the short answer is no. We have not talked to Perry yet about the ownership change.
Okay. And a few more questions here. We'll try and get to a few more. Just trying to get some of these in order here. Matt B had a question, and maybe it kind of goes in line with some of what we talked about already. But with the new owner possibly coming in, what will the roster look like aside from Otani, Rendon, and Trout?
We don't know. That's going to be up to Perry to figure out, in the winter. And I think that probably a lot of the roster heavy building is going to happen before the ownership changes. So,
Mm-hmm.
there's obviously the Otani question, which is kind of the elephant in the room. That's probably not going to get settled either way. But as far as all the other guys on the roster, that is just something that Perry can handle on his own. And he's probably going to do it just in the same manner as he was doing it in previous years, with whatever payroll number that Artie gives them.
Gotcha. And another one here from Len P. He says, "Who are some likely candidates that you may be aware of that may be, potentially in the mix to purchase the Angels? Is there any groups or any owners out there that come to mind?"
Everybody likes to just speculate about basically people who already own teams.
Right.
Stan Kroenke at the Rams and
Ooh.
Steve Ballmer of the Clippers, and people just throw these names out because they know that they own sports teams. But there aren't too many
Mm-hmm.
people out there in the world that own multiple sports teams. So I would
Yeah.
say it would be a long shot to have one of these guys that we know of that already owns a team that would also want to buy the Angels. So I think the most
Mm-hmm.
likely scenario is going to be somebody that we don't know of that does not own a sports team that comes out and buys the Angels.
Gotcha. That's a you. I forgot all about good old Stan. Maybe he gets in the mix somehow.
He
He'll
already owns
he'll
a few too. He's one of the ones that owns multiple teams. So I don't know if he really can afford any more.
I was gonna say there's very few people who can afford um, one team, let
Right.
alone multiple teams. I just going back to Perry here from Angels at Angels number 9. Just yeah, again going with Perry. I'll just read his question in full, and you can kind of go with it. And maybe there's something different from what we've already addressed so far. With the potential new ownership, this restricts Perry's ability to make free agency signings. This begs the question: does Jeff anticipate Perry will become aggressive in promoting minor league guys, especially the guys he's drafted? Essentially, Perry is in an interview process right now for the GM position under the new ownership.
Um, I don't think it really restricts what he can do on free agents for the most part. I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's just really like the super big ticket items, which is just a very small part of the team building aspect. So I think that he still, they would love to have all the good young players they can get and have those players be ready because those guys are cheap. So the question is whether they are or not. And I don't think it matters who the owner is, whether, you know, a guy like Kai Bush, who's like a pitcher in Double A, the Angels would love for him to come up and be a good pitcher in the majors next year. But whether he is or not, is not really anybody else's decision. It's up to him. So I don't know that any of that changes. It's I think the question is, are they going to afford like a Xander Bogaerts kind of guy, who's going to
Mhm.
want like a $200 million contract or something? Are they going to be able to do that? That might be a little more difficult, but we should have, by the time that stuff happens in November, we should have a much better idea of how close they are to having a new owner or not. And, if they're not close at all, then, Artie probably just gives him the number for the payroll. And if they are close, then they can probably start to kind of get the new owner's feedback on like what kind of number they're going to look at for payroll.
Gotcha. Um, I'll get you here with one more question, and then we're going to be talking about your book here a little bit. And let me just pull that question up. But for those of you who are requesting to talk, we're not doing any audio or verbal Q&A right now outside of what just me and Jeff are talking about. But if you want to go ahead, you can send me a DM, or you can try reaching out to Jeff, and maybe some of the questions we didn't get to. If there's anything else in particular that stands out to Jeff, maybe he'll be able to answer it in a written Q&A that you'll be able to find on ocregister.com. Also, make sure you guys are going ahead and exploring OC Register and our Angels coverage, as I mentioned before. We also have an Angels newsletter. Make sure you guys are going ahead and subscribing for that as well, and you'll get everything you need on the Angels sent directly to your inbox. We try to send that out at least 3 or 4 times a week, if not more, if there's breaking news. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on here in the next couple of months. Let me see if I can find that question, just for the sake of, okay, so Dan the Man, sometimes that's his name. Can Jeff see an off-season Otani trade? Maybe that's a little unlikely, Jeff, but something that maybe includes Rendon as cash relief to make the franchise more appealing. So even if it has nothing to do with Otani, I would say, Jeff, is there any chance we see something with Rendon maybe being moved on from the team? Because I think he's been hurt the last 2 seasons now. I don't think they've gotten the full value they would have liked out of him.
Yeah, I mean, that's really hard to do. I don't think that they could trade Rendon right now, and if they would, that would just create more holes. And even though it would free up some money, the way for them to get better is not necessarily just by getting more money to throw at other free agents. Because as we've seen from Rendon, free agents are not the
Right.
greatest way to do it. So you're just going to say, well, I'm going to give up on this guy and then go give him another bunch of money to some other guy, and then what if that doesn't work either? So. Uh, I just don't think there's going to be teams that are going to be eager to take that kind of thing. And I think that's not really the Angels' ticket to winning. What they need to do is get more out of guys they have, and that includes all the young players. So I think that's what they're going to be trying to do.
Gotcha. And again, thank you for everyone that is here in this Twitter Spaces. We appreciate having all of you in here. Thank you guys so much. We're going to be wrapping things up here in a little bit, but Jeff just had a new fun project kind of come along. And Jeff, the way this thing is going, and as the layers of just whatever this season has been, but even going forward, it looks like you're going to have a lot of material to potentially get another book going here soon. But you do have a current book that is out now and available, and they can find the link and more details on that on your Twitter page, and I'll look to promote it here on the Twitter space above here in a minute. But Jeff, tell me about the book. What can they expect in the book if they're picking it up for the first time? I know we have some in the chat currently that have already read the book and have told me nothing but good things about it. But tell me a little bit about the book, what it's titled, and the journey that kind of came along with writing that book, and everything that made it
Yeah,
happen.
it's called Showtime: The Inside Story of Shohei Ohtani and the Greatest Baseball Season Ever Played. And it is basically a look at Shohei Ohtani's entire baseball journey from growing up in Japan to playing professionally in Japan and then coming to the major leagues, and sort of the ups and downs of his time with the Angels, including, the bad years that led up to 2021, which was obviously an amazing season. So it kind of tells everybody how he was able to make that improvement and jump to the next level. And anybody who just kind of caught on to a little of Otani last year and realized how amazing he was, but doesn't know the whole background of how he got to be that, I think should definitely pick up the book. And it's not even, you don't even have to be an Angels fan, although I'm sure everybody who's listening here is an Angels fan, but it's good for anybody. So it's a great gift idea if you have other family or friends out there who are into baseball, and maybe even if they aren't Angels fans, they should enjoy it.
No doubt, whether it's for birthdays or, Christmas is coming up fast, folks. Make sure you guys are getting the book. It makes for a good stocking stuffer, or just a good idea for any baseball fan, as Jeff mentioned. Jeff, what as we kind of wrap things up here, what are you looking forward to the today, tomorrow, and just the rest of this Angel season? What are some things that you're kind of keeping an eye on? Any other interesting storylines or topics? What are some things on the top of your
Well, I
mind?
think the most interesting thing today is we're gonna might be finding out which of the players are not going to be going to Toronto this weekend, because you can't get
Okay.
into Canada unless you're vaccinated. So pretty much every team that has gone there this year has had a couple of players. They put them on the restricted list and they don't take them and they replace them because they can't go. So the Angels are going to have at least two. We've heard of at least two replacement players coming up, but we haven't heard exactly who they're replacing yet. But they got a kid named Brian Aguilar, who's an outfielder, and Jose Marte, who's a pitcher, who are coming up. So you can speculate all you want on which players they would replace, and there could be some more. But then beyond that, it's just going to be, the Angels have another 5 or 6 weeks to play, and I think that they just really need to see all they can see in terms of improvement out of the young guys that they have, because every one of those guys, every like a Jose Suarez or Reed Detmers, that proves himself as a legitimate piece of the future, is one less thing they need to worry about adding in the winter. So this stuff all matters. These games matter. How these guys do, even though they're out of it now. Um, they're basically building next year's team right now. So it's all worth watching.
Awesome. Thanks again so much for your time, Jeff. OC Register beat reporter covering the Angels. A lot of great stuff and coverage from him. Thank you so much again for just spending your time with us. Again, shout out to the social team for their work putting this together, promoting this, and making this happen. Jeff's a busy man and he's all over the place. And again, I just want to thank you once again, Jeff. And make sure you guys are going out checking his book. I'll have these Twitter spaces open for a little bit so you guys can go ahead and work through that slider and kind of uh, pick through and maybe there's an article or a headline that kind of sticks out to you. Maybe you want to check out more details on Jeff's book. All of that will be available for you guys to go ahead and explore above. I'll try and keep the Twitter spaces open for about 5 minutes or so. Again, thank you guys so much for popping in, joining in. And also, if you guys have questions, we try to get to as many people as possible. Make sure you're going ahead and reaching out to Jeff. I'm not sure if his Twitter DMs are open, but
They are.
go ahead and mention him.
People can shoot
They're
me
open. Okay.
questions whenever they want, and I will do my best to answer.
Shoot your questions to Jeff whenever you want. I have a few that I'll probably send over to Jeff in an email if he wants to kind of go through those as well. And maybe he'll have a Q&A at some point in the near future to kind of cover all of your guys' questions in some form or fashion. Jeff, this was fun, and let's do it again sometime soon.
All right. Thanks, James.
All right. You have a good one. Safe travels.